that, please.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dice?
Yes. The first ordinance is an ordinance to provide for the amendment of the 2008-2010 capital improvement budget.
Annette, if you'll maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yes, this is the ordinance from last month that council actually tabled. This is money from the 2008 bond issue, approximately $225,000 remaining from that bond issue that needs to be reallocated to other capital improvement projects. We addressed that last month, that we were going to allocate that to our police mobile radios, our fob system, our UP system, our phone system, and our computer system. I have Jason from Crisson actually in the audience.
I have some questions.
If council has any questions, he is our technology guru, and I'm sure he can assist you in any way.
Okay. I guess first off would be the 60,000 for the police mobile radios. Are we talking of buying, we're currently at VHF, and all the vehicles have VHF radios, walkie-talkies, and...
Actually, probably Jason can't answer the question. Probably.
Okay, well, maybe I'll
Yeah.
say that to you.
Yeah.
What are we going to purchase with the 60,000?
Well, basically, the Public Safety Committee, actually Councilwoman
I
Allison
have an update for you.
has a,
You want me to do it now?
yeah, do you want to?
Sure. Grab my notes.
So this is what we're going to be
Yeah,
spending
this
the
is-
60 grand on?
We have, right now, all of the police radios in the cars are over 20 years old, and their parts are obsolete. So as they break, we're replacing them with other parts, and before you purchase a whole system of all the new radios, we were wondering if we should go to UHF, and that's where the whole issue came in with the lines and everything like that. But right now, when Mr. Harvey came up with Chief Pascarella, when they did the narrow banding, it affected our VHF, and they're unable to communicate. And we actually have been working with the fire chiefs and everyone. We had a meeting on the 25th. It was a follow-up from the presentation, Chief Pascarella, and was assisted by Ron Harvey to discuss the recommendations. This was the recommendations that were given by Terry, they've been working with, who went to the fire chiefs meeting, and he did a whole review of our system, went through everything to find out what was wrong. We found out we have basically 3 fried antennas. They believe they were hit possibly by lightning. One was on the crown tower, which is where...
These are repeaters? Or?
No, this is a antenna, not the repeater. They're fried. They believe hit by lightning, and unfortunately, it's not taken care of by any type of contract for repairs or anything like that. One was on the crown tower, and one was Foxwood and Illini. We actually have to replace 2 of the antennas. It's not covered under anything. There are costs to replace them. We also have an unused repeater, and this was the issue that one is near, is in Pitcairn, and they have Verizon. Verizon apparently wouldn't let us in at one time, but now they actually will let it be hooked up. The antenna on the crown tower was temporarily repaired, so we get a new one. The burned out antenna on Foxwood Water Tower has been ordered and scheduled to be installed. Phone lines are ordered and will be installed on the 13th on the water tower, and the water tower on the 20th. Daily will activate the repeater as the lines are installed and tested.
So are they moving this repeater from Pitcairn to one of
No.
our dead spots?
No, it's sitting there hooked up.
Why wouldn't we do that?
There's a repeater there that's never been used. It's never been hooked up.
Right.
So we're trying to, right now you have a dead spot, Pitcairn.
Oh,
Pitcairn
okay.
can't communicate.
So you do
with-
have a dead spot in Pitcairn?
Pitcairn can't communicate with Monroeville or.
How come
or-
it was never hooked up? It's just kind of odd.
Well, they started with because we're Comcast, they're Verizon wouldn't, so it was a whole issue with.
And actually, Pitcairn has their own cable system. They don't have
Right.
Comcast or Verizon, so that's where the issue began.
Okay, so we're not purchasing radios per se, we're fixing antennas and...
Well, with everything that Councilwoman Allison is saying, it's all of a fix, but we still are going to try to move forward with switching over to the UHF lines. So I
Why?
wanted to allocate, why?
In my conversation with Chief Pascarella, it would take at least a minimum of a year for us to acquire through the county a UHF
Correct.
line.
We
So
were-
why would we buy equipment now?
We're not going to
We don't-
buy it, but we want to allocate the money there, so when the switchover does occur, that the money is available for those radios.
At least a year from now.
Exactly.
If you don't, right now, we were told by Chief Kotowski that there's apparently a waiting list. If we don't go through the process, which some of it, that the person, was it Chris at number 5 Fire Hall was going to help us apply for it, we have to pay to apply
Okay.
for it. And we're going to be put on a waiting list, so when everything kind of is needed, we are at least halfway there, and we're already on the waiting list for when it would need to occur. And they're going to run a test of everything. Then there may be other, when they run the test to see if maybe that helps some of the dead areas, dead spots, the communication problems, it's extensive, that we may need actually other equipment at that point. as
Okay,
well.
I just thought that we were upgrading to UHF and we possibly wouldn't have the line.
Well,
My other question was
sorry.
for the fob system on this. We
Mr.
have-
Duncan, I'm sorry, I just have one quick question about the waveforms.
Okay.
Is there a possibility that we won't get a waveform, a UHF?
We were told
bandwidth?
that we will be put on a waiting list. Right now, it's a waiting list.
But we may, it's
I was
possible.
told that it possibly we may not get it at all.
So you could, but if you try to apply for it when you need it, it's kind of better to apply for it now and be put on that waiting list.
Was something we could apply for, but put this in the next capital budget as far as allocating funds to it?
Well, this is the issue with the radios and the vehicles. That we have, I believe, $150,000 on our capital improvement. You're going to place all the car radios, they're over 20 years old. They're breaking and their parts are obsolete.
So there's $150,000 now that's already going towards it, so this additional 60,
No, we haven't changed it. The radios haven't been replaced. That was the whole issue. Should we replace them with all VHF or try to get UHF? Remember the whole presentation?
right?
Well, right now, the radios in the vehicles are VHF.
I understand that.
They're over 20 years old, parts are obsolete, they're trying to take parts from others. So as you have no more parts left and you can't fix them, what do you do when the radios break?
I don't
Well, I understand, but the money issue, though, like,
know that every radio is 20 years old. When,
They've
from
been
my
taken out
memory,
of
when
cars
we
and
get
put
a
in
new
other
police
cars.
car, I can recall brand-new radios being installed out of boxes. But, I guarantee they're not all 20 years old.
so what are we, and I'm sorry for, maybe I'm a little confused, what are we buying with the $60,000? Or are we just allocating funds for perhaps the future if we possibly may get on the waiting list and then get approved?
That is correct.
So we're really not spending this money, we're just
kinda
saying,
setting it aside because we feel that coming down the road, if we go to the VHS and all the repairs are made, and then we switch over to the UHS next year, we're not only going to need radios in the cars, but we're going to need handheld radios for the officers. So the expense of both of those items is going to need to be funded.
so this would stay in the 2008, 2010 capital improvement budget, even though we maybe not be spending this money for 3 or 4 years from now?
Well, we're hoping that we would be
Oh, I'm
spending
going
it
to
sooner
allow
than
because
that.
he is a fire chief.
What about like?
He was
what-
at our meetings, everything.
I'm just asking a capital, maybe it's a Mrs. Worksman question. If we're going to allocate these funds, can we pay for things in the future, next year, next capital budget, out of money from the 2010 capital budget?
Sure. Any of your past budgets that you've allocated budget.
You just have it allocated
for,
towards it, and
they
it sits
can spend
there?
it at any point in time.
Okay, that's what I was getting
So
at.
it's not like use it or lose it.
Correct.
You can carry it over year to year.
And the reason why Mr. Harvey's here, he was part of that process. And I know that we're kind of like going out of sync a little bit, but since this is a big money issue, Ron, you're a fire chief, I would certainly have no issue.
Addressed the concerns of the Public Safety Committee. We kind of put the brakes on things and said, look, let's find out what the problem is before we try to fix it and go the wrong direction. I even, via Lynette, was in her office and got the green light to go out and not only apply to see what the availability of UHF frequencies were, but to start checking our current system as it's in place. And everybody agreed, including Terry from Motorola, who I have to tell you, in all my years of dealing with radio communications now, is probably the wisest, most common sense guy I ever met in my life. And he knows his stuff, and he's the one that keeps county up and running too. Either way, the first thing that was needed to be done was a check of our system.
Ron, that's what I just said. Terry went and did a whole check. That's, I just went over, I gave you his report from Terry of what he said he found, including the fried antennas, and the repeater's not going to be hooked up. He did, we authorized him to go ahead and do the check, and that's what we're doing, what Terry said.
But the propagation study showed that the police department would be much better to stay on VHF than switch to UHF. They have better coverage than the, oh yeah, it does. And they have 95% coverage if they get that Pitcairn repeater up.
He had, he actually showed, they showed us what the coverage is now, so they can do a comparison study, and after all the repairs on the 20th, they're gonna do another comparison study. If it's close, then that's when the decision will be made.
95% coverage, which you're not gonna get any better than that, with the Pitcairn repeater site activated. Also, he came in and cleaned up the whole dispatch center, the programming on the computers that do the radio selections, and they can tap into the county and mutual aid with the push of 2 buttons. So, what I'm saying is that if Steve's, I agree, that you can't fix what they don't make parts for. And so, it seemed to me that the purchase should be, and Terry even suggested that to buy new VHF mobile radios and continue to operate off your current system, unless you had intentions of switching to the county, you know.
Well, let me put it this way to you. I guess I would like to say that maybe we should see that report from Terry.
It's gonna be done. He's gonna do a whole testing of the system on the 20th, and we're following Terry's recommendations. Who
But I
is the
still think we
professional
should
here.
get it in black and white, everybody.
Well, we're
And I
gonna,
think
you're gonna have
everything
an,
everyone's forgetting, the $60,000, even if we allocate it to police mobile radios and we find in a month that we don't need that money, we can reallocate it to another project. But for right now, because there's an unknown out there, I feel it's best to take that money that we know that we have available and set that aside, because we do not know.
Well, that's certainly up to you guys to manage that.
Well-
I'm just saying that the FCC response to that VHF frequency availability is like,
You're talking about the UHF.
Right.
yeah, I'm sorry, the UHF new frequency availability?
Yes.
Okay, if I may suggest that we get a price on the repair of the antennas that she had mentioned.
We already did, they're already moving forward.
So if that's, let's say, 10 grand, so you'll have $50,000 we know that you put away that we're not going to spend, but it's there.
Right.
Okay.
And next year, if we find out that the system is all working properly.
We could put that
You can
50,000
put that
back into the capital.
$50,000 back into whatever you choose to
if
put
we
back
apply
there.
for the UHF and they give us one, then we need it to be able to do that, because we're gonna move forward to apply for the UHF line, which we may or may not.
If it's appropriate, I mean, I'm going by what Ron's saying, that the VHF is a 95%
Well,
coverage. If you're not going to
we saw-
get any better,
Mayor, I saw the whole thing that he took it, he shows the
Well,
whole
again,
picture
I
of.
said I'd like to
He's
see
gonna
it.
do a comparison of what, he's gonna go through the system, do it again, he's gonna show the committee. So we're following Terry, but we're not following anybody else than the professional's advice.
I understand. But
And
again,
and
I'd like to
Harold's the
see
one
it
who
in
showed
black
it,
and
so feel
white.
free to go ahead and verify with Harold.
Because again, you know, if we do make that switch over to the UHF, you're talking big money. You're not talking 50 cents. You're not even talking 50,000.
A lot of the things we're doing now can still be used, whether they're VHF or UHF, so we're not really
Well,
wasting the
but
money
it'll
on
still be a
anything.
lot of money, and let's be honest, we have a $6.5 million deficit, not even counting a deficit we have now facing 2013. So,
And I definitely agree with you, Mayor, but if we have one officer that can't communicate, then we have
there's
severe
nobody going to
issues.
disagree with that.
Absolutely.
Nobody's going to disagree with that, but we
So-
have to be smart with our money.
Yeah, we're taking one step at a time, we're
But
following Terry's
UFH
advice.
would not necessarily mean that we wouldn't have an officer that couldn't communicate.
No, it would not.
Okay.
Just
so
there
we're
was,
all,
yeah, there,
you know, we're not
yeah, there's
putting
like-
an officer in jeopardy
It's
because
very
we're
evident that we
VHF.
have very many dead spots currently. If what they're
Well, if we
recommending.
have repeaters sitting around that aren't activated, we're going to have dead spots.
There's only one that's not activated, and that's
That
the
may
one
be
on
the one
13th
that
Street.
takes care of the dead
It
spot.
could be, he's going to do a test, so we're trusting again the professionals, and there was a significant change when they narrow banded. If these fixes can take us back to where it was prior to the narrow banding, he'll let us know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, the second ordinance